Please show your appreciation by clapping your hands really fast and roaring really loudly for the woolly Welsh wizard of word, Howard Marks. Mr. Nice himself. Okay.
Is it all right? Do it now? Now we do the question and answer session, which is probably the bit of any show I feel most because I lose whatever control the performer is meant to have for his or her audience. It is vulnerable to going pear-shaped, just like a kind of cannibal completely fucking pear-shaped. More than one person asks a question, then I can't discern a specific question. No one asks a question, like a fact. But what I found to be the best way, but we just have to see what it works. I just point vaguely in the direction someone with a hand up will ask a question, I repeat it and answer it. There's no censorship. Obviously, you can ask whatever the fuck you want. So, has anyone got any questions? When am I going to stand for Parliament? Well, I did stand in the 1997 general election. In fact, formed the legalized Cannibas party to do precisely that. Stood in 4 constituencies at the same time, which one is allowed to do in UK, I don't know, and over here. You can stand in more than one, but you can only sit in one. It was a legalized Cannabis party. I stood in, as I say, 4 constituencies at the same time. A precedent set by Gladstone, I believe. And lost my deposit in each constituency. I mean, have you ever tried to get a bunch of stoners to register? Let alone turn up and vote. But then, it wasn't a bid for political power. I mean, I really don't want to become a politician. It was to draw attention to the issue of the illegality of cannabis. And I think from that point of view, it probably succeeded in some sort of way. It did draw attention, and people have debated, either as a result or coincidentally, I don't know. But I did enjoy the political life because just about everyone I met, with the exception of the 3 people, was a lying wanker. I hate the politicians. I don't really want to get into bed with them again. I just hate the fact. So that's largely why I don't, it's because I already have, and I don't want to do it again. Any more questions? Yeah, I mean, the 2 very separate questions with separate answers, okay? One, the lowest point of my life was, unsurprisingly, when I was in federal prison and got the news that my son had jumped off a roof for some reason, and he was a kid, about 4, too young to commit suicide, jumped off a roof, probably thinking he was Superman or something, and broke both his legs. And my feeling of impotence I had then, of not being able to do anything about it whatsoever, was horrific, and definitely the lowest point of my life. It wasn't a turning point because I was powerless. Turning point in my life, I think there were 2. One of them was certainly when I got acquitted of bringing in 15 tons of Colombian into Western Scotland. When I was obviously fucking guilty, I took it as a message from God, to carry on smuggling. So that possibly would count as the biggest turning point in my life. Oh, and when I was offered £100 to write a book when I was trying to do another fucking dope deal as soon as I come out of prison. That was another turning point. But I think the Old Bailey one more so as a turning point. Not on the path to reform, though, on the path the other way. Okay, welcome. Well, it was a very odd experience. I mean, I ended up with the doctor with the unlikely name, an Argentinian doctor with the unlikely name of Che Guevara. Wasn't the Che Guevara, but, you know, I couldn't help thinking of the Che Guevara. And he made it worse by trying to look like Che Guevara. Which was the right thing to do. I mean, he was there, you know, like, you know, chain smoking, you know, king size fucking cigars, boots undone, rock star hairstyle, and you know, just looked like him. And he was an Argentinian doctor, like Che Guevara. The only possible difference was that this Che Guevara, the one I met, rather than the famous one, had two different coloured eyes. One was brown, and the other was blue. And I don't know if the real Che Guevara did. If so, then it's really mind-blowing. The only person I've ever met with two different coloured eyes was David Bowie, actually. I think that was due to a motorbike accident or something. But anyway, this guy became my mate in Argentina, and he was a doctor, and very much like the original Che Guevara, made his money by lecturing on allergies. But he also had a practice, medical practice. And he used to go around and visit people in remote parts of Argentina and treat them. And I used to sometimes go with him, just for a laugh. Just went with him. And he had, what do you call it, an ambulance. So it was a white transit van full of different supplies. I mean, there's all the usual thing, bandages, antibiotics, and other medicines, and plants, you know, some of which I recognize, and plants growing in flower pots, and very bizarrely, like snakes and toads and frogs and things in little cages. That was, you know, so what he travelled around killing people with. And this one day I was with him, we were visiting a 7-year-old girl and her family, and she was suffering from that disease, you know, where you get shingles, where you get this like fiery red blisters threatening to meet at the centre. She was in a high fever, high temperature, very distraught. The father too, also very distraught. And I remember Che, the doctor, turning to me and said, you know, if those blisters meet in the middle, she'll die. You know, so he rushed off into the transit van, took in a cage with a toad in it, pulled the toad out of the cage, started massaging it, okay, like weirdly, really almost sort of pervertedly. Started massaging this toad, and a white pus began to exude from warts around the toad, which he spread on this girl's stomach. And within seconds, the blisters, red things started to recede. And like, you know, she looked at me and said, yeah, it's okay. Like, my head's fucking racing now, right? What the fuck is in that stuff? Lots of things went through my head, and I said, gee, is this one of those DMT toads? Okay, because I don't think the toad is the only one that exudes it. I think the chameleon does as well, and possibly some other weird does. But this toad, particular type of toad, definitely exudes DMT from its warts when it's excited. There's no other animal, other than possibly things that are a bit like toad, that does that. It's also found in bark, plants. The bark under Russian is the fundamental component of ayahuasca, actually. Now, DMT, as you probably know, stands for dimethyltryptamine. The big difference between it and other hallucinogenic drugs is that, if I dropped acid like 20 minutes ago, and started seeing two dragons shagging each other, I think, well, I just dropped acid 20 minutes ago, that's why I'm seeing two dragons shagging each other. Actually, a projector and the table, But if it was DMT, right? Fucking, sorry guys, didn't mean to disturb you, you just carry on talking. It suspends the belief in the mind that this is actually a hallucination. Okay? You do actually apologize to dragons if this is all for real. Okay? Very interesting drug too. I mean, we produce it naturally in our bodies. Brain controls a constant drip of DMT into us, which increases measurably and significantly when we dream. So, taking DMT, to get back to the question, is a bit like dreaming. Okay? It's a bit like that. And, often at times, if you take it out of birds that normally migrate, if you take it out of their heads, then they no longer know the way to South Africa. How the fact they did in the first place. They lose the ability to circumnavigate the world without any lessons in it. They lose that. If you give it to animals that hibernate, they spend winter as if they're on a gram of Charlie every day. And then every zoological death is accompanied by a massive overdose of DMT. Like when any animal dies, absolutely anyone, then every DMT that's in it is fed to it. It's as if the brain says, alright, you're going on a heavy one, now take the fucking off. So all of that I had. It only lasts about 40 minutes, but it seems like several eternities. It's just very, very, it's not a party drug, it's just the heaviest experience imaginable. It's I think probably the closest you can get to death and come back. One of those. So that was a long answer. Yes, I mean, I think part of your point certainly is that America has sort of seen it now as an economic necessity to sort of, take charge of it really, which is where the danger comes in. I mean, no longer will it be a currency of the underground and this, that and the other. Now it's just going to be run by big business. We do have the chance to stop it, okay? I mean, it do require far more energy to stop big business taking over this shit than just to legalize it. Big thing. So one's got to first of all decide, I guess, whether one's happy for big business to take over or not. And I think until fairly recently I wouldn't be. But since, this remarkable discovery that the universe has made that bankers are fucking cheats and cunts and all this sort of thing, I'm not too sure if I am happy about it. So I think we have to set up. Well, one of the things I think worth doing, is to campaign for absolute legalization of it. I mean, decriminalization, not just I support it officially and everything and see it as a move in the right direction. But really, there's no point condoning the consumption of something if you ban up all the dealers. Okay? Decriminalization is nonsense. We have to legalize it. It's growing, it's stealing, it's selling, and everything. So every fucker, can sell it. Give those big industries some competition. We lost the way with booze. Lost the way so much. So I think, I don't see it as an easy solution. We just have to be sort of terrifyingly honest with each other. What the fuck do we want? I certainly don't want fucking big business taking over this shit. Not for a second. I'd much prefer to see a cottage industry of people fucking standing by roadsides like they sell cabbage or something. But in the meantime, yeah, we got to go along with what seems like vaguely bundled in the right direction. Now, I never thought America would take the lead in medical marijuana, but it has. Spain, I think, is a close second. I don't know why the fuck we don't do it here, See, there's always think, oh, well, we're members of the United Nations and they've made it illegal for every country to legalize dope. And that's true. But, I mean, what's going to fucking happen if we don't take any notice of that? I mean, are we suddenly going to get people with funny helmets standing outside fucking head shops or something? You see, not every country in the world is a member of the United Nations. There are 3 who aren't. For very different reasons. One is Kosovo, which wants to be a member of the United Nations. It's just a new country, hasn't got there yet. Taiwan, which is complicated because China thinks it's part of China and it's complicated. The other one is the Vatican City. I've seen nothing would be more surprising than the Americans taking the lead than the fucking Vatican taking the lead. They'll be fucking hardcore. Maybe we should just fucking forget the maybe let's just be honest, what the fuck, there's a treaty that says you can't do this, it goes back to 1961 without anyone that fucking spoke, what's talking about, it's hard, but at least you've got a good man with me, right, at least he's there, right in front of it, at least he's there, doing it, all the time, that's him. I'm fucking sure. Well, I think if they're all sold in the same marketplace, there's a greater chance of it happening than otherwise. I mean, if it was legalized, probably say they were all legalized, right? Every drug in the world legalized. Then probably marijuana could be sold in greengrocers or somewhere innocuous like that, and maybe heroin ought to be dispensed by doctors or policemen even or something. There should be differences. It's not that I'm against the hard drugs at all. It's just, I promise you, I'm not. But they are more dangerous in one respect, in that the amount you need to take to get high is very close to the amount that will kill you. So that makes it more, you can't smoke yourself to death. I fucking tried. You can't. But under a system of prohibition, yes, there is a social kind of cultural thing that might make you move on from one drug to another. Okay? But that's because of prohibition. There's nothing in dope that makes you think, like, oh, fucking hell, that was good. I'd like to try something else. It's just nonsense, There's no substance in the world that, if you like, makes you want to try something completely different. Let alone one being a herb and the other one something concocted in a laboratory in fucking Marseille. So it's just absurd, But under prohibition, there's a chance that random practice might make it more likely that you proceed to more dangerous drugs.
So would you vote legalised yes to cannabis in the growing streets, fucking back streets, fucking fields and all?
Absolutely anywhere the fucking plant will grow, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Otherwise you might be doing someone with a legitimate income. But you can't. See, licensing, even though it looks like a step in the right direction, licensing is a form of prohibition, in a sense. You have to deal with alcohol, okay? Pyscidelics to me is fucking fine, we're not going to need these fucking license. But, okay, we have it. We could have government-approved places for people who trust the government, for sure. But, you know, just punish someone for doing it himself. Fuck that. Right, well, ideally it's going to be treated exactly the same as cabbage. The same sort of laws, everything like that. Apply to cabbage, but marijuana. I wasn't quite certain of your prohibitionists. I mean, like, as far as the prohibition, I mean, we know what the prohibitionists want, either for moral or sort of, you know, vaguely social fucked up reasons. They want to make product illegal. We've seen them at work for almost 100 years now, and it hasn't been successful from even their point of view, right? So, and it has been very dangerous. It's just had a lot of sort of disastrous kind of consequences and hasn't worked from their point of view, and they can't fucking see that. No, I just don't know what to say. I'm talking about British politics. Well, exactly. See, we haven't had someone like me in Britain at all. We haven't had someone honest enough and appreciated by the sort of population to get in. We don't have a name. Okay? I tried it. So, like, I don't mean politicians worldwide. I don't have experience of them. I only have experience of British politicians, and believe me, 99.9% of them are lying market. Who would change their mind about legalization tomorrow if they felt that the majority of the country wanted it? Well, I worked for the British Secret Service, you know, so I have fairly intimate knowledge of that. I've got, you know, I've known CIA people who were paid to do various things, but they probably weren't working under the auspices of the CIA. It was just what they probably were, I don't know. You know, but plenty of examples. Because, I mean, they've either got to control it, okay? They've either got to stop it, or be in a position to participate in it. I'm not going to say, oh, I'll forget all that, you know. They're either going to stop it, which they can't do, or they're going to be part of it. It's their duty to gather information. You can't know what's going on in a country without knowing what's going on in the structure. Yes, I can. I mean, I wrote a book about it. Was there anything in particular you wanted me to focus on?
What was the first stance on it?
On
Dope smoking in general.
Oh no, we used a dope smoker and, you know, nothing against smuggling it. No, there was no, I didn't have to sit down and persuade you. But, you know, it's like, you can't sort of, I mean, although I thought he was a member of the IRA, right, in fact, he's the only person in history, I believe, whom the IRA felt the need to say, no, he wasn't one of us. I don't say that about anyone else, not even Margaret Thatcher, because there's no need, but, you know. So, I'm not going to argue with the RA, you know, if they say he wasn't a member of the RA, he wasn't. I thought he was. I thought, yeah, he was smuggling guns, and it would be to everyone's advantage if he could smuggle into Parliment guns. You know. That was my position. He raised no objection to it. Yes. No, if I thought I could get away with it, I'd do it tomorrow, you know. Can't get any partners or it, you know. There's no reform in that way, so yes, I do miss it. The nearest thrill I get is stage fright. go wrong on stage and everything. That's a bit like driving across the border. Oh, it was worth it, even if I didn't have my success today. I would have learned probably more. I came out of prison a much better person than the one who went in. I learned an awful lot in prison. There's quicker, easier ways of learning the same shit, but that's what I There's no sort of worries about that. You know, I didn't think, all right, I'll do this hard time and then I'll get some reward for it. Because I didn't know if I'd ever get out, you know, and it was just obvious to me what to do in prison, and I was to help people less fortunate than myself, you know, it's just like a kind of spirituality, you just do it, and there was no shortage of people to help that. I think that made me a far better person. I didn't really need the universe to reward me by making me a fucking best-selling author. I still can't fucking explain that, you know. I'm going to wonder when I've got to fucking pay for that. Maybe next lifetime. Maybe I'll come back as a marijuana plant and then make a book of it. No, they're old enough, you know, to have made a decision whether to or not, and I guess they decided not to. I wouldn't mind, no, I wouldn't encourage it, but I wouldn't mind if they became law teachers. In fact, one of my daughters is lecturer of law, you know, on evidence at London University, but probably has done more against stupid laws than I ever did. You know, so she is doing the same as me, but in a very different way. You know, and I approve of what she's doing, you know, completely. Oh, no, fucking hell, no, I hate shopkeeping, and I don't end up with that. No, I don't know, I'd rather be a fucking stand-up comic or a writer or something. Oh, I know they'll open up a greenhouse to shop it. You know, think of the unemployed. There'll be no shortage, you know. I wouldn't mind being a roadside seller, though. You know, like the very something to see, I love those sort of places. Speed. Because I usually think it's cold before I sniff it. Yeah, I think it's the only one I really don't like. You know, of the recreational drugs that quite a lot of people like, I think it's just speed. Obviously, there's some prescription drugs I don't like. But I like trying new ones too, you know. Well, again, sort of assuming the highest possible quality, either ecstasy or cocaine. Right. Acid I like, but I only take it about once a year now, because there's so much I have to reinventing myself. But there's something I'm prepared to take on a weekly or monthly basis, or even daily basis, than ecstasy and coke, other than the strongest possible hash. Seems to be fun. But I have funny uses for it, right? Like, for example, if I have to do the accounts, I mean, I love doing accounts on an ecstasy come-down. Right? Nothing more satisfying than filling in a spreadsheet on an ecstasy come-down. Yeah. I think it's important to use a come-down too. Well, if I was forced to, I mean, would I want to change anything? No, because I'm perfectly happy now, and you know, I don't want to sort of turn the clock back and think about all that one. I'm all right now. I'm perfectly happy now. If I had to change something, it would probably be my ex-wife's incarceration. You know, that took me by surprise. It was terribly unjust. So if I could change one thing, it would be that. Yeah. Well, I suppose, I mean, discounting the sort of, you know, ayahuasca and stuff and the kind of, I suppose, acid and everything that got there up sort of people who are schizophrenic and all that, discounting that, there's like, as people are sort of living to older and older ages, there's a greater period of morbidity, if you like, in people's lives. And you start, like, you know, if you live beyond 60 or 70, you start worrying about death, and it's a whole new thing. There's a vast sort of like body of knowledge about how you cope with death for so long. And I know David Nutt, for example, and other people I know, they're experimenting with suicide in particular, and finding that it is removing a sort of discomfort about the inevitable death, you know, that's going to happen. So maybe that, because there's lots of miserable old fuckers around. That's one. I think just in just any sort of mental disturbing that you have, there will be psychedelic drugs that would ease the way out of that.
Do you think it's succeeding? Do you think it's spreading in the medical field?
Its use? Yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, the experiments that David did, they wouldn't have thought about 2 years ago. And in Switzerland they do a lot too. I don't know anyone else that does to any degree of sort of thoroughness. Oh yeah, Czechoslovakia does, doesn't it? It's universities where they make it with ESP and everything like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a massive future out there, because it's so poorly understood. Obviously, sort of like, again, like a pure coke, as strong as possible house. Only on the cocktail. Pure coke, best possible ecstasy, the strongest possible house, yeah. And no speed. Was the spider person I met in prison was a guy called Jim Nolan, who, of your various descent, but he was the worldwide president of the Outlaws motorbike gang. And his charisma, his strength, and his native intelligence were very inspiring. I mean, like just a wonderful, fearless person. Or someone who learned never to show his fear, never to show his jealousy, just someone who exuded wisdom, you know, in a very strange way. Well, when I smoked it before, almost before I'd heard of it, you know, like in the South Wales valleys in the early 60s, it wasn't on every street corner. I mean, no fucker had heard of it, you know, I mean, so I didn't take any until I was 19. I didn't know much about it. The only drugs I'd taken before then were alcohol, obviously, some herbal hearts, and coal gas bubbled through milk. And drinking the milk after bubbling coal gas through it, which just made me sick, but it was popular for a while. Well, it would, you know, whether it become massively rich, I don't know, but it would be, you know, to increase the standard of living here, obviously. You know. It could only be a benefit. It's not that suddenly everyone's going to be fucking in the streets and not doing anything. It can only help, you know. I mean, of course, you know, it's not the only problem in the world. You know, it's certainly not the only problem in Ireland, though, you know. But let's just remove that problem and just make it deal. You know. First experience? Well, I mean, I suppose that acquittal thing at the Old Bailey is one of them, but let me think of another. Yeah, well, when I was in prison, I missed all the dance stuff, yeah, all that music. I missed. I mean, I got some of the hip hoppers who were playing that in prison. And it was in Indiana, so I listened to a lot of country, even more Western, but you know, not. I didn't get the bump stuff at all. And music was my first love. Right? Pretty followed by sex and drugs, but it was my first love. And so when I got out of prison, I asked my kids, you know, and they were teenagers, and they weren't in the prison, so I said, what's been happening in the music scene, kids? And they said, Dad, you never understand unless you got one of these little fellas. You will not understand. Therefore, I first took ecstasy with my kids. Which was a wonderful experience, you know. I mean, obviously I hadn't seen them for years, so emotionally caught up with them. I strongly recommend it to any dad, got some new with your kids, you know. And I did understand the music, slightly perturbed from the windscreen wipers were playing it on the way back home, but basically understood it. That was probably the best experience I had. I have no idea how it's affected my brain, right? I don't know whether I would be much cleverer now if I hadn't taken any, or really fucking stupid. I just don't know, right? It's hard. I've certainly not felt that I've abused my spirit, my soul, or body in any way. I think we meant to take drugs, otherwise, well, we wouldn't get stoned, really. But I don't know. You know, there's no control, isn't there? I haven't got a control in the series yet, no, I'm being straight. Alright, last question now. Only by a very nice guy who wanted a photograph of me. No, I'm actually do. I've got a touch wood of it. I've never been fucking stopped.